extras in the back if you didn't get one, and we have some pens as well. So quick, I'm an organizer in Sioux City, where I was born and raised. I went to school at Iowa State University, and I was doing my PhD in Italy up until the middle of November, where I decided to come back to Iowa to join this campaign. I picked up Andrew's book probably in the middle of summer. I read it on the beach, and ever since that moment, where 4 hours later, it made me very uncomfortable because it kept reminding me of home, the situation of Sioux City. And being from Iowa, I realized, one, how much I felt back in high school, how much I wanted to leave Iowa because I didn't think it was so special, until I realized how much power we really have here and how much power Iowans really do have in this process. And I took it seriously, so much so that I decided to come back in this cold weather. I mean, today, my back, I don't know how we do it. But, so, if anybody else wants to get involved in these last days before the caucus, I really encourage you. We have an amazing team here in Dubuque and all across Iowa. You don't need to be from Iowa to help out Iowa. And to all the Iowans that are here and have seen all the help come from other parts of the country. After Iowa, let's think about putting some work in other places. Now I will introduce someone very special, a good friend of mine, a friend of the campaign, the chair of Iowa for the engineering campaign, Al Womble, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, now that is a young man who came to Iowa to help work on this campaign all the way from Italy. So that means that he's either really dedicated or slightly insane. I love coming back here to Dubuque because I grew up just down the river from you folks in Davenport, Iowa. And as a kid, I used to come and ride that cable car up and down the hill. That was fascinating for me as a child. So when we came here with the campaign months ago, I decided to take some of our staffers on that ride. And at first the doors just closed. And they're like, wait a minute, there's nobody in here running this thing? I'm like, no, they're running from up the hill. And then we start going on up the hill. There's like, wait a minute, all we're doing is going up on these rusty cables in this old car? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We got up the hill and they looked around, we saw Dubuque, and it was such a beautiful, wonderful place. And as we're heading down the hill again, there's like, we're just going down like this. And I'm like, yeah, you're just kind of giving your life up to gravity. And the one young lady looked at me and goes, we are gonna die. So thank you, Dubuque, for giving me some entertaining moments. But right now, I would like to introduce to you another person who has come a long way just to see us here in Iowa. And I always love that, being a native Iowan, because people realize how important Iowa is. This young man has come to us all the way from New Orleans. He is one of the best kept secrets of the campaign, and he is our UBI Jedi Master. Please give a big, warm Iowa welcome to my friend, Scott Santens.
So yeah, if you're a Yang Gang, then you probably know who I am. And if you're Yang curious, you're probably wondering, who the heck is this guy? But yeah, I'm a guy who has been pushing for the idea of universal basic income for the past 7 years. And I'm here to tell you today that the freedom dividend is the most important policy of the 21st century. And the only candidate who knows that is Andrew Yang. He knows that this is about robots, data, Amazon, but he also knows that this is about poverty, security, and humanity. It's really about asking the question, what is America? This country was founded upon the ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And over 2 centuries later, we have yet to live up to those ideals. Do we have the right to life if we do not have the money that we need to live? Do we have liberty if by lacking money, we have no power to say no to those who do not lack money? Do we have the ability to even think about pursuing happiness if we can only think about our daily survival? This idea cannot be overstated as to how important this is. This is a change of historical magnitude that I would compare to the time of kings and democracy. You have the chance in Iowa here in just 4 days to actually return power to the people in a way that is truly historically significant, that we haven't seen since we actually went from the divine right of kings to self-governing. This is just the most important decision that you guys can make, and we have that opportunity to do that. So, please think about the freedoms that this is actually going to allow. True freedom is the ability to say no to those who would have power over us. It's freedom from poverty, and it's the freedom to actually start to dream again. So, with that said, there is no other person on this planet that I think would be better suited for the White House than Andrew. And with that said, I would like to introduce my friend and the 46th President of the United States, Andrew Yang.
I don't know how many of you had heard of Scott, but he's the leading thinker on universal basic income. He was one of the first people I sat down with when I was considering running for president. And it's a thrill to be here in Iowa campaigning with him just days before the vote. I just want to give Scott a round of applause. He's a man who's been fighting for an idea, and the idea is so powerful and has so much potential to improve our lives. And now, a heretofore anonymous citizen named Andrew Yang has actually already outcompeted half a dozen sitting senators, governors, and members of Congress, running on a very, very identical idea. But I was drawn to this race in large part because of the fact that I believe our country has not really figured out what the heck happened that led Donald Trump to become our president in 2016. And you all have a unique ability to actually push the country in a new direction that helps resolve the issues that got Trump elected. I did the math. Do you know how many Californians each Iowa caucus goer is worth? 1,000 Californians each. That's the power you each have to actually move this country in a new direction. So look around us tonight. How many of us are here together in Dubuque? I'm going to give a Trumpian estimate. There are 900 people here tonight. The biggest group anyone's ever seen. I think they're legitimately about let's say about 140 people here tonight. 140 Iowans is almost 4 football stadiums full of Californians. That's the power you all have. It's the envy of the rest of our country. You live it. I know it doesn't feel like you're among the most powerful people in our nation today, because you're just living your lives, watching the presidential candidates come through. But trust me when I say that you can do something that the rest of us only dream of. And now, it's for you to decide on February 3rd where we head as a country. I'm running for president in large part because there's been this central problem or challenge over the last number of years that we haven't fully understood. or challenge is this. Why is Donald Trump our president today? For you all, the question is even more core. How did Donald Trump win Iowa, a purple swing state, by almost 10 points? Now, if you turn on cable news at any point in the last 3+ years, we've been presented a series of reasons or explanations as to why he's our president. Go ahead and shout one of them out. Hillary Clinton is definitely on the list. Bully. Russians for sure. Fear. Electoral college. Coal miners. Not a politician. This is fun, right? We don't kind of know the answers. I'm going to throw some more out there for fun. FBI. Racism. Sexism, for sure.
Orange hair.
What was that?
Orange hair.
Orange hair. I didn't realize it was a factor. I left my wig at home. Immigrants, fear, xenophobia, all kind of mixed together into some kind of strange cocktail and said, here's why Trump is our president.
Corporations wanting to kill our planet. They're a form of money.
Companies over people, anti-establishment. But to become a numbers guy, I went looking through the numbers for an explanation, and I found one that will be very familiar to many of you. We eliminated 4 million manufacturing jobs in the United States over the last number of years. And where were those jobs primarily located? Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Missouri, and 40,000 right here in Iowa. I have been to those towns in Iowa where the manufacturing jobs dried up. And after the plant closes, the shopping district closed, people left, the school shrank, and that town has never recovered. Unfortunately, what we did to the manufacturing jobs is now shifting to other parts of the economy. How many of you have noticed stores closing around where you live here in Dubuque? And why are those stores closing? Amazon. 10 years ago, you might have said Walmart. Walmart's like a tank that came to town and started running over mom and pop retailers. Amazon's more of a spaceship hovering over the proceedings, sucking up $20 billion a year in business, closing 30% of your stores and malls. Most common job in our economy is retail clerk. Average retail clerk is a 39-year-old woman making between $8 and $12 an hour. When her store closes, what is her next job going to be? Someone at another event said McDonald's, but then we know McDonald's got those self-serve kiosks going. We're not quite sure. How much did Amazon pay in taxes last year? Zero. That isn't math, Dubuque. 20 billion out, 30% of your stores closed, most common job starts to disappear, and you get zero back. I was just at a mall in Iowa where the JCPenney closed, and we all know these malls can become spooky awfully quickly. When you have one of the big stores closed, you go to this mall and you're like, I'm not sure what's going on in this mall. You know, you can't have a giant empty, darkened part of the mall and have people feel like that mall is actually someplace they're excited to bring the family. These are the changes that you can see around you every day, but the changes are more pervasive than you might believe. When you all call the customer service line of a big company and you get the bot or the software on the other end, I'm sure you do the exact same thing I do. Which is you pound 000, say human, representative, human, until you get someone on the line. Raise your hand if that's what you do. Oh yeah, we all do that. That software is terrible. We're all like, a person still works at this company somewhere, and I am now going to find that person. But in 2 or 3 short years, Dubuque, the software is going to sound like this. Hello, Andrew, how are you? What can I do for you? It'll be fast, seamless, efficient. You might not even know it's software. What will that mean for the 2.5 million Americans who work at call centers right now making between $10 and $14 an hour? How many of you all know a truck driver here in Iowa? Most common job in 29 states, 3.5 million truckers, 94% men, average age 49. My friends in California are working on trucks that can drive themselves. They tell me they're 98% of the way there. A robot truck just transported 20 tons of butter from California to to Pennsylvania last month with no human intervention. Why did they choose butter for this maiden voyage? I have no idea. But you can Google robot butter truck and it pops up. And at the end of the route is a giant stack of pancakes. As far as I made up the pancakes, but everything else is real. What will robot trucks mean for the 3.5 million truckers or the 7 million plus Americans who work at truck stops, motels, and diners that rely upon the truckers getting out and having a meal every day? How many of you have been to Iowa 80 in Davenport? Yeah, they've got a meat buffet. They say that 5,000 people stop there every day. How many people will stop at Iowa 80 if the trucks no longer have drivers? Fewer than 5,000.
900 people.
900. That is a very precise guess. That had the air of authority. That man should run for office. Dubuque, these economic changes are not just something we're imagining. We're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in the history of our country, what experts are calling the fourth industrial revolution. Iowa, in many ways, has been ground zero for this, because you've seen the mechanization and consolidation of your agricultural jobs. Then it shifted to your factories, wiping out tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs. Now it's on your main streets, closing 30% of your stores and malls. Eventually, it will hit your highways. This is what hit me after Trump won. I spent the last 7 years running a nonprofit that helped create several thousand jobs in the Midwest and the South primarily. So what I saw in the Iowa manufacturing towns that closed up shop, I saw in the Missouri manufacturing towns, the Michigan manufacturing towns, the Ohio manufacturing towns, the Pennsylvania manufacturing towns. I realized that my work, for which I was being celebrated, was like water being poured in a bathtub, and the bathtub had a giant hole ripped in the bottom, and the water was rushing out the bottom, and our country did not understand it. We were scapegoating immigrants for problems immigrants had very little to do. If you go to a factory in Michigan, you do not find wall-to-wall immigrants doing work. What do you find? Wall-to-wall machines and robot arms doing work that people used to do. So I went to our leaders in DC, and I said to them, what are we going to do to help our people manage this economic transformation that is changing our way of life? And what do you think the folks in DC said to me when I asked them, what are we going to do? Those are all good answers. I'm sorry you didn't hear them. They were. I'll try and summarize them. At another event, someone made the Scooby-Doo noise. They were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So some of the answers I got into DC were these. Number one, we cannot talk about this, Andrew. Number two, we should study this further, Andrew. And number three, the most common one, you've heard this one. Andrew, we must educate and retrain all Americans for the jobs of the future. Raise your hand if that's familiar. Oh yeah, you heard that a lot. But I'm the math guy, I'm the numbers guy. I checked out the studies. Do you all want to guess how effective the government-funded retraining programs were for manufacturing workers who lost their jobs in the Midwest?
900%.
You know it's low, because I'm anchoring you low. But you also know it's low because you know human beings. You know if you're laying off hundreds of manufacturing workers, they don't all come out and say, like, I'm here for my coding retraining program. Like, I'll be on that laptop in no time. That's not human nature. The success rates were between 0 and 15%. They're a total dud. The fact is, almost half of the manufacturing workers in the Midwest who lost their jobs left the workforce and did not work again. Of that group, almost half filed for disability. We then saw surges in suicides and drug overdoses in these communities to the point where America's life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row. Do you know the last time America's life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row?
World War II. World War II is a great guess.
Vietnam?
Great Depression is a great guess. Vietnam's a good guess. 1492. Civil War is a little bit too early. 1918.
It's the Spanish flu of 1918, a global pandemic that killed millions. You have to go back a century because it's highly unusual for life expectancy expectancy to decline in a developed country like the US. It ordinarily goes up and up because you're getting richer, stronger, healthier. But here in the US, it went down and down and down. So when I said this to the folks in DC, one of them cut me off and said something that sent me here to you all in Dubuque tonight. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. No one here in DC is going to do anything about this. Because fundamentally, Washington, D.C. is a town of followers, not leaders. And the only way we would do something about it is if you were to create a wave in other parts of the country and bring that wave crashing down on our heads. And I said, challenge accepted. I'll be back in 2 years with the wave. And that is why I am so thrilled that Monday is here, because Monday the wave is going to begin, Dubuque. We've been working on this for a while, and I stand before you, fourth in the polls and rising to be the Democratic nominee. We raised $16.5 million last quarter in increments of only $35 each. So my fans are almost as cheap as Bernie's. But there was no corporate PAC money in there. This is purely an uprising of the American people to take back our government and get it working for us again. Because who's it been working for? It's been working for the big tech companies, the big drug companies. Pretty much if you have big company in your name, then the government is right there for you. If you have like a human first name and last name, they're like, can't see you, can't see you. We have record high corporate profits and life expectancy that went down for 3 years. Which do you value more? Oh, if you're a human being, you value life expectancy. But if you're Washington, D.C., you can't even see that. You're just following the money. Washington, D.C. today is the richest city in our country. Think about that for a second. What do they produce? We're not even sure. But business is awfully good. Dubuque, Donald Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to distribute the swamp. Why would you employ hundreds of thousands of government workers in the most expensive city in your country? Why wouldn't you move some of those jobs to Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa? You would save billions of dollars immediately. And I would argue that those government agencies would make better decisions because they were living someplace normal and not in a DC bubble where they just talk to each other. I'm for term limits for members of Congress. Your work and then come home. It should not be to go there and say, ooh, I like it here, let me stay. And Dubuque, I know how we can pass it. I'll be your president a year from now, thank you very much. And then I will go to Congress and say, hey, we need 12-year term limits, both houses, to make our Congress more dynamic and responsive to the American people. But current lawmakers are exempt. Do you think they pass that? Yes. They would pass that the next day. They would say, we do this for the American people. Because they're exempt. Yeah, they're like, doesn't affect me. It affects the person after me. Heck, I could become some kind of super legislator as long as I hang out. But then they'll lose too and eventually come home. And then we'll have a legislature that turns over on a regular basis and people will be voting their conscience more freely. We have to end the stranglehold of corporate lobbyist cash on the Capitol, and I know how we can beat that too. All the Democratic candidates talk about overturning Citizens United, which is right. But the fact is corporate money has been dominating our politics for years before that ruling. So here's how we change it. Only 5% of American voters right now donate to political campaigns. So if you donated in this room, pat yourself on the back. Oh good, people are So the question is, how do we get that up to some higher percentage? What I'm proposing is that we give every American voter 100 democracy dollars that you can give to any candidate or campaign you want each year, use it or lose it. What percentage of Americans do you think would donate if they had 100 free dollars they could give?
15.
It's funny, at another event someone said 90%, and I was like, you can get 90% of Americans to do anything. But if you got got it to 50%, which I think is realistic, we could wash out the lobbyist cash in Washington by a factor of 4 to 1. Because if you're a legislator, you get 10,000 Americans behind you, give you the 100 democracy dollars, that's $1 million. So when the lobbyist comes and says, here's $80,000, you'd be like, I don't know if I want to take that, because then the people are going to notice and they're going to turn on me, and I'm going to lose what's been fueling my rise. You see how this can work? We have to get our government under control and working for us again, and that's going to start at the top. It's going to start by putting someone in the White House who does not owe the corporations a dime. I'm not a professional politician. I'm a citizen and parent who has seen where this country's heading. I also understand that technology is getting stronger and faster and smarter, and most of us feel lucky just to stay about the same, you know what I mean? If you're a kid, then you're getting smarter and you feel pretty good. If you're an adult, like us, we just feel lucky not to be getting dumber. But technology is getting very, very fast and very, very smart. Dubuque, we're in the midst of the most extreme winner-take-all economy right now. And that's before some of this new technology hits. Think about this. Like, how the heck do you make that work for us? If you're here tonight, you know I've got a very dramatic proposal. I want to give every American $1,000 a month, starting at age 18. Raise your hand if you knew that first. Good, all right. Keep your hand up if you thought that's unrealistic, too good to be true. I understand. But Dubuque, this is not my idea and it's not a new idea. Thomas Paine was for this at the founding of our country, called it the citizen's dividend for all Americans. Martin Luther King, whose birthday we celebrated last week, fought for this in the 60s, and it was what he was fighting for when he was killed in 1968. I know this because I met with his son in Atlanta. And he said this is what his father was fighting for, the guaranteed minimum income for all Americans. It was so mainstream that 1,000 economists, including Milton Friedman, one of the godfathers of modern economic thought, endorsed this plan in the 1960s, passed the US House of Representatives twice in 1971 under Nixon. The Family Assistance Plan would have guaranteed an income floor for every American family. And then 11 years later, one state actually passed a dividend where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that?
Alaska.
And how does Alaska pay for it?
Oil.
And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology, data, AI, self-driving cars and trucks. A new study just came out that said that our data, your data, is now worth more than oil. How many of you saw that study? How many of you got your data check in the mail last month? If your data is now worth billions of dollars a year and you are not seeing a dime of it, then where's all that money going? Yeah, a few places, like where? Amazon, Facebook, Google, Apple, the trillion-dollar companies that are paying nothing back into our society. That feeling you had in the back of your mind that there's a game being played behind our back and that your community is getting sucked dry, all of that is true. Raise your hand if you're a parent like me and Evelyn. If you're a parent at some point in the not-so-distant past, you've had this sinking feeling that we are leaving our kids a future that is less bright, less prosperous, and less secure than the lives that we have led as their parents. You know why we feel that way? Because it's true. If you were born in the United States of America in the 1940s, there's a 93% chance you're going to be better off than your parents were. That's the American dream. That's what brought my family here. That's what we all aspire to for our kids. But if you were born in the 1990s in the United States of America, you're down to a 50-50 shot and it is declining fast. That is why the parents feel the way we do. That is why young people feel like the deck is stacked against them. Because it is. And Dubuque, this is what you must change on February 3rd. We can make it so that all this value that's leaving your community comes back to you. We get your tiny fair share of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad, eventually every robot truck mile and AI work unit, and we return it to you in the form of a dividend of $1,000 a month. Particularly because when this dividend is in your hands, this $1,000 a month, where will it go? How much of it will stay right here in Iowa? Most all of it. Not all of it. You might get your own Netflix password. But most of it would go to car repairs you've been putting off, and daycare expenses, and Little League signups, and local nonprofits, and religious organizations. Dubuque, this is the trickle-up economy. From our people, our families, and our communities up. This is how we balance the most extreme winner-take-all economy in the history of the world, make it work for you and your families, and balance out what's happening between rural communities and big cities. This kind of change should have happened decades ago. That is why things feel so out of whack. We have let them become dangerously imbalanced, almost punitively and punishingly so. We have to reverse it. It's very, very hard to have a country move forward if we're not excited about our kids' futures. Imagine if we could look our kids in the eyes and say, your country loves you, your country values you, and your country will invest in you and your future. We can make that happen on Monday, Dubuque. There is no other way. There is no other way to make it work. Everything I'm describing is picking up steam. You have been ground zero for the changes. This is how Trump wins here by almost 10 points. If we don't make these changes over the next 4 years, do things get better or worse? What happens in the next 4 years? More stores close, the AI gets smarter, robot trucks start inching toward the highways. We have to turn the tide right now. I am not running for president of the United States because I dreamt about being president. Trust me, those were not the conversations in the Yang household. My parents weren't telling me, you're gonna be president someday. They were more like, you're terrible, go clean your room. I'm running for president because, like so many of you, I'm a parent. I have seen the future that lies ahead for our kids, and it is not something I'm willing to accept. I will fight to give them better, but I need you to fight with me on Monday. You know, my wife and I was talking about the beginning of this campaign, and she was fascinated by the history of this idea that Scott has been studying for years, this idea that was so mainstream in the 60s and almost became law. And she said, what the heck happened in the United States of America over those 50 or 60 years that something could go from being so mainstream and common sense, and now today it would require a futuristic Asian man to like drag it back in law. Like, what happened to us? And we agreed that somehow over the intervening decades, we have been collectively confused to think that economic value and human value are the same things. And that if the economy thinks you have a value, then you have a value. And Dubuque, what we have to say to the rest of the country on Monday is that we each have intrinsic value as Americans, as citizens, and as shareholders of the richest country in the history of the world. I think Democrats make a huge mistake when they think they act like Donald Trump is the source of all of our problems. He's not. He is the symptom of a disease that has been building up for years, for decades. And it's up to us to get to the hard work of actually curing the underlying disease. Sometimes I make an Asian doctor joke in there. That was pretty good. We've been getting told about how great things are for a while now. You've seen it. Record high stock market prices, record high GDP, record high corporate profits, record low unemployment, they say. And yet you feel like things are not going that great in your communities. And once again, Dubuque, you are right. We have record high corporate profits right now. What else are record highs in the United States right now? Substance abuse, drug overdoses, suicides, infant mortality, stress, anxiety, mental illness, depression, financial insecurity, student loan indebtedness. Record lows right now. Starting a business for a young person, getting married, having a child, all of the hallmarks of a thriving society are record lows. Dubuque, this is where we are right now in 2020. This is what we are leaving to our kids. These are the real problems that got Donald Trump elected. And this is what is our work to solve. I know how wrong and off-base the economic measurements are, in part because of my own family. My wife is at home with our 2 boys every day, one of whom is autistic. How much is her work valued at by our current measurements? Evelyn gets a 0. How about every stay-at-home parent in our country? How about caregivers taking care of ailing loved ones? How about activists and volunteers trying to do something positive? How about most coaches and mentors looking after our kids? About 90% of artists. It's tough. I'm sorry, artists here. It's wrong. One thing we don't think about much, but it's crucial. How about local journalists? We have put almost 2,000 local papers out of business because all of their revenue went up to the internet, and you can't run a paper on that. 200 counties now have no local news at all. What doesn't work very well if you don't have local news? Democracy. Because how can you vote on what's going on in your community if literally no one is covering what's going on in your community? Dubuque, these are the things we're supposed to value most in our lives. Our children, our families, our community, our democracy, and they're getting zeroed out one by one by one. This is what we have to change. We have to let the rest of America know that it's not that we all have to work for this economy. This economy has to start working for us and our families. I've been coming to Iowa for almost 2 years. I started coming in spring of 2018. I have to say, I've loved campaigning here. You all have been beautiful to me and my family. My kids love it here. They came in the summer. They've been here this past week. One, they love Daddy's boss, because Daddy's not a huge boss. So my boys don't really understand what I'm doing. I just told them Daddy has a really big deadline on Monday. But I have to say, I love Iowa. Campaigning here the last 2 years has been the journey of my life. I'm really glad that you all are going to determine the future of our country.
Thank you, Andrew.
I know you know just what to do. Donald Trump's our president today because he had a very, very simple message to the American people. It was very powerful. He said he wanted to make America great again. What did Hillary Clinton say in response? America's already great. You all remember that? It's been a long 3 years, I know, Dubuque. But it's now coming to an end. That response did not work for many Americans because the problems in our communities are real. We have to acknowledge their reality and depth and severity, but then we need real solutions that will move our country forward. What were Donald Trump's solutions?
Wall.
Build a wall, turn the clock back, bring the old jobs back. Dubuque, we have to do the opposite of these things. We have to turn the clock forward. We have to accelerate our economy and society to rise to the real challenges of this time, like climate change. We have to evolve in the way we see ourselves and our work and our value. I'm the ideal candidate for this job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Thank you all very much. It's your job to lead this country we love so much. God bless. God bless. God forward. God bless. Thank you all so much. Let's look for the future we can prepare for our children. going to do one or two quick questions here.
First of all, I want to say thank you for running. And I am a mom of 2 children with autism. So, my son Brandon is 17, and I don't know how I'm going to manage him in the future of managing his care while I try to work a part-time job, and he can't. I want to be able to take care of him when I'm working, while he's in school, or not in school, that he's going to graduate. My daughter's 15, she's autistic. So they're getting that age.
I'm so sorry. It's so hard.
I haven't instituted that degree. I have an art degree. I'm in small business. I'm trying to get them to get it to the point where I can have them work with me throughout the day. And then having hired people that will help me with managing their care and help manage, encourage other people with disabilities to just come in and create things like I do upcycling. So tires and the storage office and pet notes.
Wait, go ahead and do a plug for leaders.
So, but
No, do it, really,
it's Connie Christopher Designs. Connie Christopher Designs. I'm still going with that. And my question is for people with disabilities, and they have, I'm an autism mom, but I've done EA therapy, and a lot of people with autism that are autistics, and they're having EA therapy done to them growing up. They didn't find it encouraging, they found it hurtful. And there's other therapies like OT therapy, speech therapy, things like that. But I mean, where's the funding in your campaign for the therapies and for disability rights and moving them forward to be able to live in the community and not institutionalized?
Well, I love this question so much. It's obviously very personal to me and my family as well. I know there's a set of experiences you have as a parent of an autistic child. I just think you're a superhero because you're both a parent of an autistic child and a small business owner, and I just appreciate the burden is so high. It's incredible. I'm incredibly grateful for everyone who's helped Christopher develop. And you're right that some therapies work for some kids and not others. And you're also right that the community doesn't have enough in the way of resources. So a few things I'll say. Number one is Congress said they would fund 40% of the resources required for children with autism, special needs, and disabilities as an act of Congress years ago. It being Washington, D.C., they actually fund 15%. So most communities are very, very under-resourced. I would fund 100% and just get this back off the backs of communities. I mean, the fact is, to me, this is the new normal in our country. We have to stop pretending like our schools are these assembly lines and all the kids are the same. They're not. I mean, they're individuals, they're human beings. We need to lighten up on the standardized tests. We need to pay teachers more. We need to get more teachers. And give families like yours the support they need. Because if you think about the difference between having a kid grow up to be functional and happy and everything, or someone who's going to need aid their entire lives, like what's the difference in those two results? And then what would you invest to find a better result? Like this is an investment. Not investing is dumb, and it's inhuman and inhumane. So as your president, we will invest 100%. The second thing is that the reality is many autistic children become autistic adults. Many people who are going to be in these families are going to have to take care of their loved ones for their entire lives. And that doesn't stop at age 18. So if you're in that situation, we need to be putting much more in the way of resources in your hands so that you can live the kind of life that you want. And I've talked to so many families who struggled with this. We're the richest city in the history, we're the richest country in the history of the world. Do you all remember voting for the $4 trillion bailout of Wall Street? Does you remember anyone being like, where are we going to get the money for the banks? Dubuque, it's time we invest in our people and treat ourselves at least as well as the Wall Street banks got treated 12 years ago. the ability to try and ease the path for families like yours, and I've experienced this myself as someone who's both struggled with this mightily and also benefited from having some really caring and generous therapists who've made a really big impact on our child. So, but really thank you for everything you've done every single day.
You didn't really touch on it today, but I know it's a big component of your presidency. Climate change. Conventional knowledge says that it has to be taken care of in the first 100 days or soon thereafter, because then other issues fall into place. I'm wondering what your plan is to combat climate change, and if need be, is executive order something that could be used to combat climate change?
Thank you for the question. How many people are concerned about climate change? All of us. It's this existential threat that's bearing down on us. I get frustrated when politicians talk about preventing climate change. Why? We're on the curve. The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years ever. You've seen the floods, the fires. In New Hampshire, they've had shrimping businesses disappear because the water warmed up. Like, the impacts are all around us all the time now. So what we have to do is incorporate climate change into the way we do just about everything, honestly. And one of the things that I suggest to people, if you had to put a price tag on climate change, what would it be? For context, our economy is $21 trillion a year. So what do you think climate change's cost would be over time?
All of it.
Tens of trillions of dollars, thousands and thousands of American lives. Like, the cost is astronomical. So in that context, you realize that doing nothing is incredibly expensive. And then investing hundreds of billions of dollars in making our families and towns more secure, more resilient, more adaptive. Investing in a higher embankment on the river is a lot more cost efficient than cleaning up the town after it floods. So we have to start investing right now and try and shift to more renewable sources of energy. I would zero out the subsidies to the fossil fuel companies, move them all to wind and solar. I would have a carbon fee and dividend that Republicans historically have liked because there are a lot of market mechanisms. The tough truth about this, Dubuque, is that the United States of America is about 15% of global emissions. And what's going on with the other 85%? China is going to African governments and saying, hey, I've got a coal-burning power plant for you. And then what is the African government saying? Excellent, we'll take it. Because they don't care, they just want energy. So what would we have to do to change that? We have to show up to that African government at that table and say, do not take the coal-burning power plant, take these solar panels instead. And we will subsidize them very deeply, so that is a no-brainer for you. That is where we have to lead the rest of the world as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, we have to start investing in protecting our people and also not leaving people out on an island when they do get hit by one of these climate change-driven disasters. Right now, that's what we're doing. You have towns that are struggling, families that are seeing their lives transformed, and we have to let them know this is not a you problem, this is an us problem. That we need to start investing generational resources right now to help smooth this path and make ourselves safer, stronger, more resilient, more adaptive, and brace for the reality, because we are on the curve. We can make the curve gentler, we can mitigate some of the worst effects, but we have to start acting right now.
One of my biggest concerns is I hear talk from the president and other people in Congress that the Social Security and Medicare, the entitlement program, we need to make an adjustment. And all of us are paying our good lives, we feel like that's criminal to consider us an entitlement.
I couldn't agree more, sir. It would be criminal. If you pay into the program and you know money, like you essentially have your wages pre-committed and then you're supposed to get them back and then people act like you're not going to get them back, I'd be angry too. As your president, I guarantee every cent of Social Security or Medicare benefits you've been promised, you will receive. is a farce. Like, $4 trillion bailout for Wall Street, $1.5 trillion tax cut for big companies that they didn't even ask for, that none of it went to workers or ordinary families, it all just went to shareholders. And then when a family hits a tough patch, then people look and say it's your fault, we don't have the money. It's frankly nonsense. Like that this mistreatment of us at the expense of these companies has to stop. And that particularly goes for older Americans who paid into a system and deserve every cent of it. I will say I would do even more for people who are retiring on fixed incomes, because the reality is we're facing a retirement crisis that's going to grow as the generations age. Because I'll tell you, young people don't have much in the way of savings at all. Like my generation, like it's pretty bad. Like the curves get very, very gruesome very, very quickly. So my freedom dividend of $1,000 a month stacks on top of Social Security. It's the biggest expansion of benefits that anyone has ever proposed. And I know this is the right thing to do because you can't retire on Social Security benefits. Moms who took time off from the workforce had their benefits cut. And you're living on a fixed income, and what's happening to your costs? They're creeping up and up. You know one way to stress someone out? Have them on a fixed income and then have their costs go up. Like, that stresses every human out. I know because I have parents. And we can do better than that. We have to have Americans be able to retire in quality circumstances and not working until the day they die. And that is where I would lead us as president. We can afford it. You can see it. I can throw the math with you. We're starting at the math, working for us instead of for the companies that have bought and sold our government for too long. Thank you all very much. We can have a round of applause to the next president of the United States, Andrew Yang. We gotta get Andrew out of here, everyone. We got an event in Cedar Falls, so we just have a few minutes to mingle, and then we gotta get out. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Did he say Cedar Falls? I thought the next event's in Waterloo. Let me ask someone. No extension on it. Either we hit it or we fail. And I don't like failure. Neither does Andrew. So can we donate right now? Everyone, $1. We can raise $1,000 right now in the next 5 minutes if everyone goes to theyanggame.com and donates. Just $1 to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Mary, for the $11.11 donation. Strong with the $5. Jaron with the $1. Heather with the 46. Jeff with the 46. Tim with the 200. Jason with the 60. Barbara with the 5. Greg with the 30. Kay with the 5. Dawn with the 25, Jason with the 25, Mark with the 6, Judy with the 5, Rachel with the 10, Lauren with the 15, Milo with the 5, Penny with the $1.46, Shai Shang with his every single event he donates $5, Aaron with the 5, Laura with the 10. You know what, Shai Shang? How much money do you have? How much money do you have right now? Give us all the money right now. I'm just kidding. Give whatever you can give. But we have a deadline tomorrow. Just remember that, guys. No extensions. We got to go to the media and be like, hey, we raised this amount of money, more than Buttigieg or more than Warren or more than Biden. And that helps us make headlines going into the Iowa caucus. Thank you, Aaron for the 5, Laura for the 10, Jacob for the 5, Sergey with the 25, Carol with the 10, David with the 50, Ruby with the 1, Dennis with the 25, Jennifer with the 50, Jim with the 10, Julie with the 50. Ricardo with the 25. Now, we owe 2 people shout-outs for last stream for donating over $900 each. But unfortunately, Andrew's very busy right now. So we're going to get that at the next event. And if you would like to be the donation leader for this event, I think right now it's Tim at $200, which means Tim will get a shout-out. I'm going to go grab my stuff so when Yang gets out of here, I'm ready to go. But I got to ask, yo, Julian. Okay, confirmed. Next event's in Waterloo. Thank you, Shane, for the $25 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Zedric, for the $5 donation, Andrew Yang. I'm gonna go get my stuff.
Good seeing you, Amy.
Let me see. Aaron who donated $954 and Steve who donated $893.
$954. Thanks, Aaron.
And Steve
with $893. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Joseph, for the $20 20-cent donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Jacob, for the $1 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Richard, for the $1 20-cent donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Jan, for the $25 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Sir. I can't, HSER, for the $5 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Evan, for the $1 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Matthew, for the $5 donation, Andrew Yang. I think I said Richard with the $1.20 donation, to Andrew Yang. Brady with the 5, C with the 10, Brandon with the 10, Michael with the 10, Jessica with the 5, Robert with the 5. Oh, let me get out of the picture. I got in the event through this door, so I don't know how to exit out of here. Thank you, Choi, for the $25 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Kevin, for the $1.76 donation, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Not, for the $6.66 donation to Andrew Yang. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin with the $100 donation, Andrew Yang. Michael with the $10 donation, Andrew Yang. Kelly with the $5 donation, Andrew Yang. And Jose with the $10 donation to Andrew Yang. That is going to be the end of our stream. I got to drive to Waterloo. Brian with the $100 donation to Andrew Yang. Sal Shun with the 20. I love when I start recognizing the names. Sal Shun with the $25 donation, Andrew Yang. Hold up, we gotta do an interview real quick. Actually, I don't have time. Let me get out of here. I do not.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
I kind of got to run to the next event. But what news are you with?
Oh, I'm with Iowa Starting.
Iowa Starting Line?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer a few questions for Iowa Starting Line.
Oh, okay.
I like Iowa Starting Line.
You like them?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay. So, are you a volunteer, or so you're just running to the next event? That's pretty far.
My name is Matt from the Zach and Matt Show, and I started running a business when I was 15, and I'm 20 years old now. But last June, I passed it on to my brother to pretty much unpaid volunteer, trying to do whatever I can to get Andrew Yang elected, because I think his ideas are the best thing ever for the country. I'm not. I'm from Maryland.
Okay.
So I've been with him every single event during the 17-day bus tour, except for the one this morning, because I was really tired last night and had hotel problems. But yeah.
So you've been just like vlogging? Very cool. Very
Yep.
cool. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, we have to interview Iowans, but so I'll let you run. But that's really interesting. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I may see you, so I'll be on the trail.
Well, keep covering Andrew. You guys do a great job. Yang? Gang. Can we get some donations?
Oh, dude, I got the fucking money shot out of him.
during that moment. and
Crying? Can you send it to me so I can tweet it out? Or are you gonna?
I'm tweeting it out, you cloud chasing motherfucker. Look at this guy.
No, it's because this is my issue. I tweeted it out already, and I got like it's blowing up, but it's like this fucking
I got you.
ugly ass video.
Tell you what, we'll talk whenever.
No, just
But
I'll
are you
just
gonna be?
I'll just retweet
Yeah.
you.
Are you at the next event?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I gotta run over there. Thank you, Troy, for the $10 donation to Andrew Yang. How do I get out of here? Where's the exit? How do I leave? Oh.
Thank you. Here we go. Appreciate it.
Now they're looking. Lots of ones. Yeah, lots of ones. Lots of ones. That's what I like to hear. Ugh. Hey, good to see you.
Hey, do you want any beanies?
Really?
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
You got it.
Thanks, Macaulay.
No problem. See you around.
You too. Okay, we gotta get the hell out of here, stream. I just got a free beanie. Look at that. You go to Yang events, you get beanies. Look at that. Oh, the bus is just pulled out, which means we need to play. Iowa starting line only can interview Iowans. Come on. Just kidding. I like Iowa starting line though. So that's why I would have answered a few questions for them. Getting dark. Come on, guys, toughen up. You think we're gonna win this campaign by being worried about the dark? So this is what we need you all to do. How much money can we raise during the drive between events? That's the real question. Yang gang. Ugh, I haven't ended it yet because I want to read the comments. Oh, I love this tripod. It's so cool. Like, look, it's awesome. Hold up, I just got a copyright notice. For a video from like September 8th. Shit. Wait a sec. Oh shit. I gotta take care of that. Okay, let me call Darth Clyde. This thing's gotta end. Yo. I'm ready to cut the stream. But tell everyone I'm going to Twitch if they want to keep following along. Dude, I was trying to get the wrong car. That's on my car. Oops. Is this one over here? We gotta go. We gotta go. Donate. I'll scream Yang Gang right now if y'all donate.